Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a mighty review of a game titled Astroflux. And honestly, every time I say its title, I think about something else, but that's neither here nor there. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the game. The developer is Fulla Fiskin, only developer for the game. It was actually originally released as a Flash game on websites like Armor Games and CoreaGate back in 2013. However, this game has actually been ported over to Steam, and you can download it for Windows PC or Mac OS. Now, that being said, it's just a real arcadey sci-fi shooter, if you will. You know, you fly around a spaceship, shoot stuff up, collect materials, recycle the materials, and you use the materials to upgrade your ships, upgrade your artifacts, things of that nature. You do have crew members, so you can train your crew members. You can use your crew members on, per se, away missions, things of that nature. But that's really the premise of the game. It's just pretty much flying around, shooting stuff, collecting stuff, and then upgrading your ship. That's the primary focus of the game. It's really nothing special. It's an age-old formula. Think of along the lines of Asteroids. Just recently, I did a mighty review on a game titled Star Valor, which is a very similar premise. Of course, there's Spaceport Galactic Empire. I've talked about that in the past. You know, so it's really, honestly, it's nothing special. However, that being said, when this game was made, it was actually quite special because it was done, as I said, as a Flash game. It is a free-to-play game that offers co-op. It offers PvP, things of that nature. There's also clan warfare. I think it's called Planet Wars. I've never done Planet Wars. I've done the PvP before. I've also done the hostile environment where... So when you're queuing up to go to a different sector, you have hostile environment, you have PvE, and then you have clan only. Nothing really changes between the three of them except for, like, your loot is best when you're doing hostile environment. When you're doing hostile environment, players can also attack other players. But it's kind of like a PvE PvP type deal rolled into one. However, that being said, you can also create groups. So at that point, players aren't actually hostile to other players within the group. So that's something to keep, attention to. Now, I want to just take time, kind of go over the game, what I think about it. I mean, personally, I think the sounds are perfectly fine. They sound great for the game. I mean, essentially, it is, like I said, it's a Flash game that was ported over to being a PC game. And that this is, at its time, it was one of the most popular PC Flash games that you could download and play. It does have some pretty retro graphics. Nothing wrong there. I mean, the ships, actually, some of the ships are pretty interesting looking, I think. The different various enemy types are pretty interesting looking. And essentially, you can look at everything and tell that it's different in some way or another. There's nothing really similar about it. So the retro graphics are honestly just fine.
Nice fucking model!
The background, I think, looks the best part. With different sectors of space, the background changes. And I think the backgrounds always look good to me. And I think it still looks actually pretty good even now. And this is, we're talking almost 10 years later. There's lots of ships that you can get. And there's also lots of weapons. There's also lots of different enemy types. As well as there's also special enemy types and bosses. Usually with like a special enemy type, it'll be like a standard enemy. But there'll be something that makes it special. And it'll glow in a certain color based on what the special thing is, such as, I don't remember the different colors. I remember red was damage, and if I remember correctly, yellow was speed, and I think blue was health, and then I think, if I remember correctly, green was resistance. Now, understand, I didn't take time to look this up. I used to remember way, 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 way back in the day on the wiki page. And I do remember that red was the damage one. And I'm pretty sure the gold was speed. I just couldn't remember what blue and green was. Now, that being said, that's actually kind of nice because when you kill those special enemies, they drop additional loot. That being said, too, if you spawn in a hostile environment, you also get additional loot as well. So you can really double up on your loot there by killing special enemies in hostile environments. Now, that being said, too, though, those special enemies are tougher to kill. They normally have more health, things of that nature. There's plenty of missions in the game. There's daily missions, there's timed missions, and there's campaign missions. And there's a lot of campaign missions. Like, every sector of space has a campaign, at least one campaign. Although there are some of them I do believe that have two. And then, of course, each campaign is a series of missions. It might be 8, 10, 12 missions that you have to do to complete the campaign. And it'll have you do different tasks. So there's a lot of different tasks that you can do. It's got, like I said a bit ago, it's got PvE and PvP. That's kind of one thing I like to highlight. I really want to highlight the fact that it does have two different ways you can play the game, and you can play it based on how you want to play it. It's not forcing you to do one thing or another. So it is a nice free co-op game, actually. You can play it with your buddies pretty easily. Flux is the premium currency in the game. And in general terms, that's how you're going to, like, you can paint your ships using Flux. You can gain additional crew members using Flux. And you can also buy new ships with Flux. You can do a lot of different stuff with Flux. And at least Flux can be earned. And honestly, it looks to me that actually Flux is easier to earn now than it was when I played it back when it was still a Flash game. So it's actually nice to see that the creator, the developer, has decided to take time to increase the possibilities of earning Flux in the game. That being said, too, the graphics are low key. It doesn't take a lot of space on your hard drive. I think it's like a gig or it's like 1.5 gigs. I don't remember how big it is. It is really small. And you can play this thing on a toaster. Literally. There's lots of action. I mean, basically, you're flying around, you're shooting all the time, things of that nature. And the one thing I really want to point out is I experienced very few lag spikes. A lot of free-to-play games can get really bad when it comes to lag. But actually, Astroflux here didn't seem to have a whole lot of... I didn't seem to have a whole lot of issues with lag spikes. And actually, back when this was a Flash game, I had more issues with lag spikes than I do now. That being said, things that I kind of feel was like a downfall for this, or a negative side of this, especially since it's a PC port, is there's no real graphic options whatsoever. You know, there's no options to customize your HUD. There's really no controller support, which I guess that's okay. I mean, pretty much you can actually play this game with nothing but a keyboard if you wanted to. And you can customize your keybinds. You can also set your flight up to where your mouse turns your ship. I don't have mine set up that way. I use the WDS keys, and then I use the mouse to fire my weapons. The game itself is really grindy. It's not so bad when you're first starting out, but as you gain levels, and start upgrading your ship more and more, it's going to take more and more time to start upgrading stuff, and it gets really grindy at that point. And even for like your higher level ships, you need a lot of flux for your higher level ships. Now, I actually got lucky. I was able to snag they had this beginner bundle that was $1, and it came with 500 flux, and it came with the Neutron X, which is a really good ship, especially for just starting out. Great ship for just starting out. And was actually the primary ship I used when I was playing constantly. And understand I think I was up to level 70-ish. I was somewhere around level 70, 60, 70 when I played years ago. Of course, I had to start from square one now because of this being on Steam versus being able to play it through Armor Games, but whatever. There is a bit of a paywall because of the flux, and like I said, the higher level ships, you're going to need more flux, and you can either grind until you're nothing but dust, or you can open up that wallet. Now, while I feel that is a negative, understand that this is a free-to-play game. This is absolutely free. You can download this game, try it now for free. I understand why there's a why there's a bit of a paywall. Obviously, the developer, he's got to pay to keep the lights on somehow. That's how he's going to do it, and that's pretty typical for free-to-play games. Is that some way or another they're going to sucker you into paying some money. The player base is really small. The player base actually looks smaller now than when I used to play it. And understand, when I used to play it, way back in the day, we would actually fill lobbies. We would fill sectors of space with ships. There was a lot of sectors I ran through where I was literally by myself, or maybe one or two other people, and that wasn't regular. Of course, as a game gets older, it loses popularity and things of that nature, and I kind of wonder how many people this many years later even knows that Astroflux even exists. So there is that too, or even that it still exists. I wasn't sure if it still existed. I just so happened, after doing my review of Star Valor, to actually look and find out that, hey, yeah, this game's on Steam. So, hey, great. So I figured I'd download it and play it again for a little bit. Not much has changed since the Flash game days. I've seen a couple new enemies since I last played, and one of the sectors that was in development is actually now playable. Other than that, I don't really see a whole lot of new stuff, new content, or anything like that. I've seen some new weapons. I haven't seen any new ships, but I'm sure there is some. But either ways, there's not a whole lot to change. So if you played this back in the Flashpoint days and you really enjoyed it, you're still going to really enjoy it because not much has changed. That being said, though, if you played it back in the Flash days and expect this game to have, a bunch of major changes, well, yeah, that's not going to be the case, as nothing's really changed. And the last thing I want to cover is like the artifact loot. You pick up artifacts and you get a lot of them. And honestly, you would think that the artifacts would actually have some kind of actual value in game. But a majority of the artifacts, first off, are worthless. And honestly, you get so many artifacts that it's nothing special. I remember when I first started playing this game years ago and I got some artifacts, I was like, oh, hey, that's cool. And then it got to the point where like I was getting artifacts all the time. It was like, oh, well, yeah, this really ain't so special. And honestly, the artifacts themselves, they hold some value, and there are some decent artifacts to grind for. But yeah, you get so many of them, it's just not really special. I'm just saying it'd be interesting if you actually got less. And honestly, I think I get more now than I've gotten before in the past. So, whatever. Either ways, folks, it's a free-to-play game. It's arcadey. It's a lot of fun, actually. And it takes no space on your hard drive. I recommend at least downloading it, trying it for a couple hours. And, if you really enjoy the game, trust me, it'll keep your hands full. I actually downloaded it just to play it for a couple hours, and then I ended up wasting a half a day playing Astroflux. So, you'll get into it if you enjoy it. I'm not saying it's for everyone. But anyway, folks, there you go. That's my review of Astroflux. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have yourself a wonderful day.